The candidate for New York City mayor answering tough questions at a senior center in the Bronx.
All right, a good day in New York's Rosanna Scotto, the only one Cuomo talking to tonight.
All right, well, maybe because I went out to the Bronx.
Yeah,
I
that's right. You covered a lot of ground.
Yes, I went out to the Rain Senior Center in the Bronx, met some very, very nice people. At the same time, Assemblyman Zucchero and the former borough president of the Bronx, Ruben Diaz Jr., threw their support behind Andrew Cuomo in his bid for New York City mayor. Everybody wants to know why you want to run. I mean, you were governor. Why do you want to be mayor of New York?
You know, I think it's simple because I'm a lifelong New Yorker, as you know. I love New York. There's no place like it. I want to leave it as special for my children as my parents left it for me. And New York City is in trouble. New York City is in crisis. And I've been through the ups and downs of New York, and I know the economic cycles, but this is different. This is different. We have COVID, we have high taxes, and then you have this deterioration of the quality of life where people don't feel safe to walk on the streets. People are worried about the mentally ill being on the streets. The affordability crisis, people cannot afford to live here. You can't find affordable housing. We have to make changes, and we have to make changes fast.
If you are elected on day one as mayor, what would be your first order of business?
There's no first order. There's 5 orders of business. This is the first order.
Okay.
Public safety, we have to do something about. I mean, it's what you heard in that room, right? When people are afraid to walk down the street, that's a problem. When people are afraid of homeless, mentally ill on the street, that's a problem. When people say, I can't afford to live here anymore, I can't afford the cost of housing, that's a problem. When people say, I'm afraid of the chaos on the streets, I can't cross the street, the e-bikes, the scooters, etc., it just seems like mayhem, that's a problem. So there is a lot to do.
So you get along with President Trump?
President Trump and I have worked together on many occasions. We've agreed, we've disagreed. We have to see what policies he intends to put in place. If he pursues these policies to cut health care and cut Medicaid, I'm telling you that is going to be a major problem for New York State and New York City.
What about the ICE coming into town and taking people who were accused of crimes?
If ICE, they have said different things, right? Both ICE and the president. If they focus on criminals, we do not harbor criminals in New York. We don't do that. If people committed crimes, then they should be deported. 100%. I agree with that. If they say we're going into churches and hospitals, we're going to have a problem. If Honan thinks he's going to say to the mayor of New York, pardon the expression, I'll be up your butt, that is no way to treat the mayor of New York. I think that was disrespectful. And I think it showed disrespect, not just to the mayor, it showed disrespect to the city of New York. You want to work in a collaborative way, you start by showing respect.
So now what do you do about bail reform? Because the bail reform is a problem too, right?
Bail reform, they can change too.
Will they change it? Will they change it?
They will change it if you create the pressure. They
So
don't
will you create the pressure?
Yeah, they don't do anything without pressure. But these are their constituents, and they can't say no to their constituents. They just can't.
We got to talk about it because it's 5 years, right? 5 years since we were all locked down during the pandemic. And as you know, you've been getting dogged about putting seniors back in nursing homes when they were still not well. Would you have done something different? Looking back now, 5 years later, would you have done something different?
Yeah. First of all, COVID was such a disruptive situation for so many people on so many levels. Remember what you did. You closed schools, you closed businesses, you made people wear masks, only 25 people in a room. it was probably the most restrictive environment that government ever imposed. So there are a lot of people who, in retrospect, say, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have done this.
And what does your gut tell you?
Well, first of all, remember what we were dealing with during COVID. We had no idea what was going to happen. I had the best health experts in the country in my office, and Rosanna, they did not know. They did not know how many people were going to die.
I know, right. We had no idea. And when you look back, you had an empty ship, you had an empty Javits Center. Why couldn't you put some of the sick seniors in those places?
The ship and the Javits Center were set up as precautions if we needed them for overflow. We never needed them for overflow. We got the situation under control before that. But look, COVID was a horrendous, once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. It focused on nursing homes, as you know, because that's where COVID preyed the most. 2 million Americans died during COVID. Every one of them was a tragedy. People died in nursing homes in New York under the worst situations imaginable. We had put in restrictions that said visitors can't go into nursing homes because we were afraid they would bring in more COVID. That means people in nursing homes were dying alone. It means you couldn't go say goodbye to your mother or your father or your grandmother. It was horrific. It was horrific. And my heart breaks for people who had to live through that situation. I lost my father. I can't imagine being in a situation where I couldn't even go say goodbye. I couldn't even be there.
I know. And there are people to this day who are upset. They're still grieving. They're angry with you. Do you feel that you owe them an apology?
I am sorry for what they had to go through. It was horrific. Just take the basic fact that they could not go in to say goodbye. Yes, all the health experts said to me those were the right regulations to put in place because a visitor might bring in more COVID, which is the last thing we wanted. But on the flip side, people didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I understand why the health department wanted the restrictions. And by the way, not just in New York, this was nationwide. These were the restrictions. And I get it, but it was a terrible, terrible situation.
Can we talk a little bit today in the Daily News? There's an op-ed from one of your deputy commissioners in the health department who talked about the accusations of undercounting deaths in nursing homes. How did that happen, and why is that still like part of the vernacular right now?
Yeah, it never happened. It's it is still a subject of pain for people. When you lose a loved one, it's years of grieving. And look at these situations. Not only did you not get a chance to go say goodbye, but then there were these conspiracy theories because it became so politicized, right? The president was blaming the states were blaming the president was suing the states. Everybody was pointing fingers. So it became very political, very weaponized, and then for people to think maybe government made a mistake and that's why mom died. That's a very, very difficult situation. The bottom line at the end of the day, if this nation could redo everything, you should have known the virus was here months earlier. We didn't know until March. It had been coming since January. Where were the federal watchdogs? Why did it take so long for them to come up with a test? Why did it take so long to come up with a vaccine? But on the other hand, no one had ever dealt with it. But I can tell you this, those health officials worked 24/7. They were in those emergency rooms. It was scary. It was scary. They didn't know really how the virus transmitted. They didn't have enough PPE. And these people did everything they could, and they killed themselves. And then at the very end of the day, if you want to say, well, how did New York do relative to other states? They've actually counted now, finally, after all the rumors and after all the politics. Only 12 states had a lower rate of death than the state of New York. Now think about that. Only 12 states had a lower rate of death in nursing homes. We had it first. We had it worst. The other states watched New York. They had time to prepare. And only 12 states had a lower rate of death. 37 states lost more people, had a higher rate of death than New York. So at the end of the day, I think the New York health professionals did everything they could, and the numbers show that. But again, one death is one death too many.
Yeah, interesting. He clearly knows that's really the Achilles heel of this campaign at this early stage right now. And of course, you're asking him those questions in a senior citizens facility.
That's where they had their event today, at the Rain Senior Citizens Center in the Bronx. And he got a very warm reception there from the people who attend and who work there. And I asked them, do you want to know more about COVID from the former governor of New York? Do you want to know more about nursing homes? Nope, they did not.
One of the questions that I have for our elected officials is how they're going to manage the growing aging population. We're in need of more funding.
I worry every day, is my pension and my Social Security going to come next month? I met him a couple years ago. I met his father before he died. He's going to do the right thing.
Housing for seniors. Housing for seniors and security in the streets for our senior population.
And so what we're really hearing there is quality of life issues.
It's, you know, these people right now are worried about what's happening in 2025. You know, listen, looking back 5 years, we were talking about it ourselves. It's hard to look back 5 years ago. There's a lot of pain there. But Andrew Cuomo is taking this head on, and I'm sure it's not over yet. He's got a lot of campaigning, but a lot of support for from the people of New York City.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. While we have you here, can you get Wendy Williams on the phone again, do you think?
Did you like that old school?
Big week, yeah.
So, you know, Wendy called on this phone. I don't know if she's watching. If she is, call me. But we didn't want to take a chance of running it through the studio, so I just held the phone close to my microphone.
No,
and
it's
I thought it was
amazing.
great. It was great to hear her and, you know, see how she's doing. As she's on everyone's mind.
All right, big
And
week.
so's Andrew Cuomo running for mayor of New York City. We'll
Thanks
see.
for staying up late. Hang out with us.
I don't go to bed that early.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right.